Welcome to the Vine Christian Community Church podcast.
Great to be here.
Each week, we basically take the main message from our Sunday service and really try to explore it, get into the details.
Yeah, do a proper deep dive.
Exactly. So this week, we're diving into the sermon from week 3, that one focused on John chapter 2.
Ah, yes. The wedding at Cana and then the clearing of the temple. Two very distinct scenes.
Very distinct. Yeah, you've got this joyful wedding and then this, quite dramatic event in the temple courts.
It's striking how they sit side by side in the chapter, isn't it?
It really is. And the big theme we're sort of pulling out of both is this idea of purification, of cleansing.
Right. Both in a maybe physical sense, but much more importantly, in our hearts, minds, spirits. That kind of internal cleansing.
Yeah. I mean, we all get the idea of wanting to be physically clean, don't we? That feels pretty basic.
Sure, it's natural.
But is there maybe a similar, deeper thing going on inside? You know, wanting to get rid of, I don't know, spiritual grime, like regrets, anxieties, maybe bad habits we feel stuck in.
That's a really interesting way to put it. That maybe our desire for, washing our hands or whatever actually points to something deeper.
Could be a sort of echo.
Yeah, an echo of needing that internal sorting out, that purification. We often sense when things inside aren't quite right, don't we? There's maybe this longing for wholeness, for purity, that's more than just skin deep.
So that's what we want to unpack a bit today. What does spiritual cleansing actually mean? Why does it matter for our relationship with God?
And the power it has, right? The transformation that happens when we actually allow God to do that purifying work in us.
Definitely. So let's start with that first story, the wedding in Cana. It's in Galilee, likely Nathanael's hometown.
Right. And Jesus turns up with his mother, Mary, and the disciples. It notes he arrives a bit later, which is maybe a little insight into the time.
How so?
Well, perhaps punctuality wasn't quite the same stress it is for us. Maybe it reflects a different appreciation for just, being present with people rather than rushing from A to B.
That's a nice thought. We could probably use a bit more of that today.
Probably. And these weddings, Jewish weddings back then, were huge events. They often lasted several days.
Wow.
Yeah, lots of guests, big emphasis on hospitality. So for the wine to run out, that wasn't just awkward.
No, that sounds like a major social disaster.
Exactly. A real embarrassment for the couple, a failure in that cultural expectation of providing generously.
You can feel the tension. And Mary, his mother, she tells Jesus about the problem.
Mm-hmm. And notice how she tells him, it doesn't seem like she's demanding he fix it.
More like just bringing the need to his attention.
Yeah, like she trusts him, trusts his ability, his character, even if she doesn't know what he'll do.
Okay, and Jesus' response, "Woman, why do you involve me? My hour has not yet come."
That can sound a bit harsh to our ears.
It can, yeah. But woman was actually a formal, even respectful way to address someone then. It wasn't rude.
Ah.
And the second part, my hour has not yet come. That's the key bit. He's questioning the timing, perhaps, not dismissing the need. So it's about God's bigger plan, his timing, not just Mary asking for a favor.
Precisely. It emphasizes that God's purposes unfold according to his schedule, not just based on, family ties or immediate pressures.
Got it. And Mary seems to accept that because her instruction to the servants is just so simple. Do whatever he tells you.
Which shows amazing faith, really. Complete deference to Jesus.
So, following her cue, Jesus tells the servants to fill these 6 stone water jars.
And these weren't small jars. They were used for Jewish ceremonial washing. Each could hold, 80 to 120 liters? Huge amounts.
Massive. So they fill them to the brim with water. Then Jesus says, now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet.
Right. And think about the symbolism there. These jars are for ritual washing, outward cleansing.
Okay.
And the number 6, in some interpretations, can represent incompleteness or imperfection, falling short of the perfect 7.
Interesting. So Jesus takes water from jars associated with ritual washing, possibly hinting at imperfection.
And he transforms it, not just into wine, but into excellent wine.
Yeah.
So good that the master of the banquet is amazed it was served last, not first.
Yeah, he comments on that, doesn't he? That normally you serve the good stuff first.
Exactly. So it's this unexpected, overflowing abundance and joy emerging from something quite ordinary, something linked to the old ways of cleansing.
And this is described as Jesus' first sign, the one that revealed his glory. And crucially, his disciples believed in him because of it.
Yes. But it's also interesting that apparently only a few people knew where the wine actually came from. The servants, Mary, Jesus, the disciples. It wasn't a big public spectacle.
Like a quiet unveiling?
Sort of. A hint, maybe. a pointer towards something bigger. This isn't just about fixing a party emergency. It's signifying a shift.
A shift from...
From outward ritual cleansing to a deeper inward transformation that brings real joy, real abundance. It's hinting at a new, superior kind of cleansing he will bring.
Okay, that makes sense. You mentioned the old ways.
Right.
Does this connect anywhere else, like in Hebrews?
Oh, absolutely. Hebrews chapter 9 draws a really sharp contrast. It talks about the old tabernacle worship, the priests, the sacrifices, the external regulations.
The ritual washing.
Exactly, all that stuff. And Hebrews says those gifts and sacrifices couldn't actually truly clear the conscience of the worshiper. They dealt with the externals.
Right, they were symbols, pointers.
Yes. But then Hebrews 9, verses 11 to 14, explains that Christ came as the high priest of the good things. And through his own blood, not animal blood, he entered the most holy place once for all time.
Securing eternal redemption.
Precisely. And that sacrifice does cleanse our consciences from acts that lead to death so we can serve the living God. It's a deep, internal, effective cleansing.
So the water into wine at Cana, it's like a little preview, a foretaste of that much deeper conscience-cleansing work Jesus would ultimately achieve.
That's a great way to see it. A beautiful foretaste of the joy and transformation that true internal cleansing brings.
Okay. Wow. So we have that picture of transformation and joy. Then the very next thing John tells us, the scene shifts completely.
Dramatically. After a brief stop in Capernaum, Jesus goes up to Jerusalem for the Jewish Passover festival.
And this would have been a massive event. You mentioned maybe 2.25 million Jews gathering in Jerusalem.
Huge numbers, yeah. Imagine the crowds. And right there, in the temple courts, Jesus finds this marketplace set up.
Selling cattle, sheep, doves, and money changers too.
Yeah. Now, on the surface, there was a sort of logic to it. People traveling long distances needed animals for the required sacrifices.
And the temple tax had to be paid in a specific type of coin, right? So you'd need money changers?
Correct. They needed coins that met certain standards, maybe based on weight and silver content, not necessarily avoiding images, because even Tyrian coins with pagan symbols were sometimes allowed, apparently. But the system had become corrupt.
How so? What was the real problem?
It seems that it turned into illegal profiteering, extortionate exchange rates, pressure on people to buy supposedly temple-approved animals at inflated prices, even if the ones they brought were perfectly fine.
Ah, so it was exploitation.
Very likely. And critically, where it was happening, this commerce was taking place in the outer courts, the area specifically designated for Gentiles to come and pray.
The court of the Gentiles, so it was blocking access to God for non-Jews, effectively.
Yes, and turning a house of prayer into, well, a noisy, potentially corrupt marketplace.
And Jesus' reaction is strong.
Extremely strong. He doesn't just tell them off. He makes a whip out of cords.
Wow.
And he physically drives out the animals, the sheep, the cattle. He scatters the coins of the money changers, flips their tables over. It's a forceful, disruptive act.
And tells those selling doves, get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market.
It's pure zeal for God's house. And the disciples actually remembered Scripture at that moment. Psalm 69.9, zeal for your house will consume me.
So his anger was righteous, rooted in protecting the temple's true purpose.
Exactly. He quotes Isaiah 56.7, my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations, and Jeremiah 7.1, asking if they've turned it into a den of robbers. He's exposing how far it had strayed from being a place to meet with God.
A place for all people to meet God.
Yes, but it had become focused on profit and exclusion.
So naturally, the Jewish leaders are not happy about this. They challenge him.
They demand to know by what authority he's doing these things. They ask for a sign to prove his authority.
And his answer is cryptic, to say the least.
You do.
Destroy this temple and I will raise it again in 3 days.
Yeah. And they immediately misunderstand. They think he means the physical temple building.
Which, they point out, took 46 years to build. How could he possibly rebuild it in 3 days?
Right. But John, the writer, immediately clarifies for us, the readers.
He was speaking about the temple of his body.
Exactly. His death and resurrection. That was the sign.
Yeah.
This is huge. Jesus is redirecting everything.
How do you mean?
He's revealing that the ultimate cleansing, the ultimate access point to God, isn't going to be a physical building anymore. It's not about stone and gold or ritual acts performed in a place.
It's about him.
It's about him. His body, destroyed on the cross and raised again 3 days later, that is the new temple, the true meeting place between God and humanity, the source of ultimate purification.
That's a massive claim, a complete paradigm shift.
Absolutely radical. So even though John notes that many people did believe in Jesus during that festival because they saw the signs he was performing.
Like maybe healings or other miracles.
Presumably. But even so, Jesus didn't entrust himself fully to them
Why not?
because, John says, he knew all people. He knew what was truly in their hearts. Their belief might have been superficial, based only on the spectacle.
That's quite challenging, isn't it? It makes you think what kind of clutter or maybe commerce distractions, wrong priorities might be sort of defiling the sacred spaces in our own lives.
That's the question it leaves us with, isn't it? If our own hearts and lives are meant to be spaces where we meet with God.
And First Corinthians tells us our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit.
Right, 1 Corinthians 6. If the physical temple demanded such reverence and needed cleansing, how much more should we care about the state of our inner lives, about being cleansed and restored?
Okay, so we've seen these two pictures, the subtle transformation at the wedding, the dramatic confrontation in the temple, both pointing towards purification. How does this actually work, this spiritual cleansing process in our lives?
Well, it's definitely something that impacts us deeply, mentally, emotionally, and it's ongoing, isn't it? It's not a one-off fix.
Yeah, and we know we can't just scrub ourselves clean through our own efforts. Salvation, being made right with God, that's his mercy, his grace.
Absolutely. It's not based on our own righteousness. Titus 3 makes that clear. But our everyday choices, our responses to God, they definitely play a huge part in this ongoing process.
So what's essential then?
I think a key starting point is a willingness to be obedient to the truth we know. God's call is consistent. Be holy because I am holy. That involves actively choosing to stop living just for ourselves, for our own desires, and making ourselves fully available to him.
And there's a purifying effect in that obedience.
Yes. 1 Peter 1.22 says something like, now that you have purified yourselves by obeying the truth so that you have sincere love for each other. Obedience, done out of a genuine desire to live purely for God, seems to cleanse our souls.
So it's the motivation behind the obedience that matters, not just rule following.
Exactly. It's setting aside our own agenda because we want to love God with everything we have and love our neighbors as ourselves, like Jesus said, were the greatest commandments. That focus naturally moves us away from sin and towards purity.
And when we understand our own need for that cleansing because we recognize our own sin,
then we realize everyone needs it. Everyone needs Jesus. And if we've experienced that love, that forgiveness, that transformation ourselves, well, you naturally want others to experience it too, don't you?
it flows outwards.
It should. So I suppose the ultimate question these stories leave us with is about our willingness.
Willingness for what?
Are we truly willing to let Jesus, who, as John said, knows our hearts completely, knows all the clutter and compromises, are we willing to let him do his deep, purifying work inside us?
Even if it's uncomfortable, like overturning some tables in our lives.
Exactly. It might involve confronting things, changing things, but it's the path to true holiness, to that restored, vibrant relationship with God that we were made for. It's a journey.
A lifelong journey, yeah, allowing God to refine us, to cleanse us. It's amazing how both the joy of Cana and the confrontation in the temple point to that same need.
They really do. Jesus' ministry, right from the start, was about revealing a deeper reality, a cleansing that goes far beyond anything we can achieve on our own, leading ultimately to his work on the cross and resurrection.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the sermon here at the Vine Christian Community Church podcast.
It's been good to unpack it.
We really hope this exploration of purification and cleansing, looking at John 2, has given you some valuable insights, maybe some things to think about for your own spiritual journey.
Yeah, lots to reflect on there.
Definitely. Please do join us again next time as we delve into another key message from our Sunday services.
Look forward to it.
And for any more information about the Vine Christian Community Church, you can always visit our website. That's www.vinechurch.uk. Thanks for listening.